President Trump just shocked social media after posting this AI-generated photo to his Truth Social platform. While the administration states this was intended to depict him as a healing doctor, many observers, including some of his own prominent supporters, have pointed to the striking messianic symbolism in the image. This has sparked an intense debate. Is this a matter of personal branding, or is there a much more calculated reason behind this specific timing? Today, we are breaking down the hidden imagery in this post to reveal exactly what it tells us. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why he made this post. On the night of April 12, 2026, a single post on Truth Social managed to shift the entire media cycle, as President Donald Trump shared an AI-generated image that immediately sent shockwaves through the public square. The image featured Trump in a flowing red and white robe, appearing to emanate a divine, healing light while surrounded by what many interpreted as celestial beings. The backlash was nearly instantaneous, coming not just from the usual critics, but from a vocal segment of his own core supporters who found the portrayal of a political leader in such a messianic light to be profoundly concerning.
I want to show you an image that President Trump posted on his Truth Social yesterday. What do you make of this?
Personally, it's disgusting. I talked with my wife about it earlier. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and that right there is, I don't really have words for that.
That's a disgrace. I'm very upset about that. How egotistical can you possibly be?
As a Christian, how do you feel when you see this image?
Offended? Yeah, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed that he would actually do that. The man I voted for, I trust. You know what I'm saying?
Many of these voices, who have been with the administration since the beginning, openly denounced the image as a bridge too far, calling the visual messaging both distasteful and disrespectful to the traditions they hold sacred. To understand why this specific image appeared when it did, we have to look at the explosive timeline of the 48 hours prior. On Saturday, April 11th, just one day before the image was released, Pope Leo took to the global stage to issue a pointed critique of the current administration's handling of the escalating overseas conflict. The Pope's words were focused on the rhetoric being used to justify military actions, and the president's response was equally aggressive, labeling the Pope as weak and terrible for foreign policy. The president made it clear that he viewed the Vatican's intervention as a direct challenge to his authority. Less than an hour after this public exchange, the controversial image was uploaded. Because of this specific sequence of events, a massive number of observers have concluded that the post was a calculated response to the Pope, a visual declaration suggesting a level of authority that rivals or even transcends that of the Vatican. By appearing in robes of divine light so soon after being criticized by the world's most prominent religious leader, the imagery seemed to suggest that the president views himself as the ultimate healer and protector. When the administration finally addressed the mounting outcry, they offered an explanation that many found even more perplexing. They insisted that the image was never meant to depict a religious figure or a messiah. Instead, they claimed it was intended to present the president as a healing doctor, mending the wounds of the nation.
Did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and it had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor.
However, even if we accept this official stance at face value, it raises a new set of questions. Why would a doctor be framed with three horned celestial figures and robes that mirror ancient biblical iconography? While the administration insists on a secular medical interpretation, the visual data suggest a much deeper, more intentional symbolic alignment with spiritual power. This disconnect between the official word and the actual imagery is exactly why so many are looking closer. This isn't just a simple mistake. It's a deliberate piece of communication, and once we break down the specific details being overlooked by the mainstream, the true intent becomes impossible to ignore. Now, when we look past the surface-level debate about whether this is a doctor or a messiah, the specific details in the AI image begin to tell a much more targeted story. If you look closely at the background of the image, appearing just behind Trump, there is a depiction of celestial figures, what many are calling angels, but they aren't standard angels. One of the angels are bearing three distinct horns. In the world of classical and biblical symbolism, this is a very heavy signal. Specifically, in the prophetic text of Daniel 7, 3 horns are described as being subdued to make way for a new, rising power. In that context, the horns represent kings or sovereign authorities. By including this imagery in the post, the administration is using a very specific visual language that suggests a disruption of the traditional global order. It's a signal of a power that doesn't just work within the system, but one that replaces what came before it. This visual messaging becomes even more significant when you align it with a recent report from The Guardian regarding the current military climate. According to their analysis, there has been a documented shift in how high-ranking officials, including those in the Defense Department, are framing the current overseas tensions. The report notes that for the first time in modern history, official briefings are reportedly using terms like spiritual necessity and divine plan to describe military operations. When you take The Guardian's reporting on this spiritual framing of war and place it right next to an image of the president as a celestial healer with 3 horned figures behind them, the picture becomes clear. The administration isn't just releasing AI art, they are aligning their visual branding with their military rhetoric. Whether you find the healing doctor explanation plausible or you perceive a much more messianic undertone, the fact remains that the imagery in this post is a direct mirror of the spiritual war narrative currently being discussed within the highest levels of authority. I recently produced a deep dive analysis on Patreon where I explored the full implications of this Guardian report, details that go far beyond what can be safely discussed here. It explores how this situation is much larger than a single news cycle and offers a perspective on everything unfolding in real time. If you want the unrestricted breakdown of what's happening behind the scenes, I strongly suggest you check out that video via the link in the description. To touch on the core of that analysis for those here, the Guardian report highlights a significant claim that changes the context of this entire debate. It details accounts from within the military where high-ranking commanders have reportedly informed service members that this specific leader was quite literally chosen for the current global moment. These aren't just rumors. The report cites specific complaints where leadership allegedly described the president as anointed by a higher power to navigate the nation through this regional conflict. When you understand that our institutions are reportedly framing a commander-in-chief as having a divine mandate, the Truth Social posts featuring red and white robes and celestial lights take on a much more significant meaning. It suggests that this AI photo was never a random post or a simple artistic oversight. Instead, it functions as the visual manifestation of this anointed rhetoric. If these reports are accurate, then the depiction of a savior-like figure isn't just a metaphor, it is a calculated reflection of a deeper internal ideology. By utilizing this imagery, the president is reinforcing the concept that this leadership is a matter of destiny rather than just a matter of policy. This is precisely where the doctor defense begins to break down for many observers. A doctor is trained to heal physical wounds, but a figure presented as chosen is designed to lead a total movement. When you combine the specific symbolic presence of the 3 horns with the reports that the military is being told this conflict is biblically sanctioned, you realize we're looking at a unified branding strategy. This represents a total shift in how power is being presented to the global stage. A shift that demands attention regardless of your personal beliefs. From my perspective, this wasn't an accidental controversy. I believe the reaction to this post was entirely anticipated, coming so soon after the public disagreement with Pope Leo. However, I think this goes beyond a simple rebuttal to the Vatican. It is about the specific message this administration is sending to the world. Since the very beginning of his political career, the branding has been heavily grounded in these specific traditional values. Long before this image ever surfaced, many were already using language describing him as a chosen figure. The Guardian article suggests that this idea was being cultivated behind the scenes all along. This image serves as a confirmation of that intent. It signals a desire to be perceived as a pivotal, almost otherworldly figure who will usher in a new era. The claim that this was simply about portraying a doctor is difficult to reconcile with the visual evidence on the screen. Even if that were the case, it prompts the question of why a leader with no medical background would choose such a specific, divine aesthetic to convey that message. To me, the imagery is clear, and based on the global reaction, it seems the intended message was received by everyone. When we step back and look at the full picture, from the timing of the conflict with Pope Leo to the specific three-horn symbolism in the military rhetoric reported by The Guardian, we aren't just looking at a social media post, we are looking at a masterclass in psychological and symbolic branding. Whether the administration calls it a healing doctor or the public sees it as a messianic claim, the impact remains the same. It is a visual declaration of a mandate that goes beyond traditional politics. In this era of AI-generated reality, the images being shared are often more than just art. They are the blueprints for how power wants to be perceived. If the reports of anointed rhetoric within our institutions are even partially accurate, then this image is the final confirmation of a shift we've been tracking for years. It tells us that the leadership isn't just seeking to manage the nation, it is seeking to redefine its own origin story as something historic, if not supernatural. As we continue to navigate these shifts, the most important thing we can do is keep our eyes on the symbols. Because while the headlines might argue over the definitions, the imagery is telling us exactly what the plan is. At the end of the day, every piece of visual communication we encounter is released with a specific intention. Most of the time, those intentions remain hidden behind layers of branding that many people never take the time to deconstruct. We are often influenced by the imagery we consume on a daily basis, and once you develop the ability to see through that influence, you can begin to comprehend the broader strategies unfolding across our landscape. This is exactly the message that a certain 1988 cult classic attempted to convey nearly 40 years ago. The film They Live provided a cinematic blueprint for understanding how media can be used to shape perception and maintain a specific narrative. It's a film that remains more relevant today than ever before. If you want to see a full breakdown of the themes in that movie and how they relate to the modern world, you should watch this video right now. And if you're looking for a deeper dive into the Guardian report and the implications I can't fully explore on this platform, make sure to watch my Patreon exclusive covering the situation. I will also be releasing a second part to this specific breakdown where I dive even further into this iconography to share the details we couldn't get to here. If you want to join that conversation, the link is waiting for you in the description. For those who want to support unfiltered content, make sure to like this video and subscribe to join the truth movement. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.